Okay, what we're going to talk about today is your MATLAB gearing assignment that you're going to be working on. Okay, so your MATLAB gearing assignment, if you take a look at it, there are two parts to it. Part one is where you're going to have the user go to do calculations related to gear geometry. And there you're going to calculate these values: OD, pitch diameter, root diameter, tooth thickness, addendum, dedendum, and angle between teeth. Part two, your gear train calculations. You're going to basically ask the user what they have and what they want and to do the calculations from those numbers. Okay. Now you're only going to use one of these relationships: number of teeth and speed, speed and torque, or number of teeth and torque. You do not have to calculate all three of them. We're just going to do a sample calculation. You guys can pick whichever one that you want. Okay. Otherwise, it'll be a very long program. So you are going to ask the user which relationship that they want to calculate. And if they want to calculate one of the others, your program's basically going to tell them that they can't calculate the values and they'll have to come back when the program is updated. Also, you want to make sure that when the user doesn't give you enough information, it gives you an error message. Okay? Now, in general, the overall program should have 4 parts. First, you need to introduce the program to the designer and to the user. You need to make sure the second part is getting the information that they need, basically asking them which part program they want to run. Then there's the part 1, then there's the part 2. I would like you guys to design for some extra credit to see if they enter some other number to show an error message. Okay? Part 1 calculations, you're going to confirm that they have selected to do some gear geometry calculations. It's always a good idea when they select parts of a program to go ahead and confirm that with the user. The next part is you're going to get information. In order to do those calculations for gear geometry, you're going to have to ask for number of teeth and pitch. Okay, so those are the 2 values that you need. Then you're going to go ahead and calculate your values. I would recommend calculating and suppressing them rather than calculating or display, but you can do that as well. This code right here is basically you're suppressing the calculation for pitch diameter, and this code is you're basically explaining what that value is. So if your formula doesn't have a very descriptive variable name, you'll want to use the fprintf command to put some text around that number so it's a little bit easier for them to understand. Okay? Part 2 is a bit more calculated. Again, you want to display to the user that this basically confirming them what they've selected. So this section of the program is going to perform gear train calculations. You're going to ask them which relationship they want to use. So you can have them push in a number 1, 2, or 3 for one of those 3 relationships, okay? And basically, if assign the one that you've chosen, this is an if statement to let the user or to let the program know that if they've chosen that one, they can do the calculation. But if other numbers have been chosen, the 2 or 3, that the program can't do the operation, okay? All right, the next slide is where there's a lot of text here, okay? This is basically the code for that program, for that part of the program where you're actually doing the gear train calculations. Now, I've made this code very general. That way you can insert whatever relationship that you want. So N and T, S and N, or the other one as well. Okay, now we're going to basically, I'm going to do a sample one for you. It's going to be N. So let's say that we've got N1 over N2 equals T1 over T2. And then we're solving for N1, T1 over T2 times N2. Or we can solve for one of the torques. Okay? So this is the information that we're gonna do a demonstration with this program. Okay? If you take a look at this code, it's basically asking you the first line, are you trying to calculate variable 1 or variable 2? So in our case, it would be N or T, okay? If we're trying to calculate the first variable, it's going to ask, these 3 lines right here are going to ask for the other 3 pieces of information. because we do need to know what those other three variables are in order to get the unknown. So that's basically what we're doing with these three lines, getting the known values for that final calculation. Now this line right here is going to be used to give you an error message. Let's say that the user gives us a 0 value for one of these two over on the side. And if that's the case, we need to display that they haven't given us enough information. Otherwise, they can do the relationship, okay, and then it ends that. Now, this other code over here is basically for the other values. So this one, let's say, would be for calculating n. This one would be for calculating t. That way you've accounted for both of those options. So if you see the code here, you see that there's some similarities. If the variable equals 1, okay, it's asking for those three values. If it's 2, it's asking for the three values in that case, okay? So you can see that these lines are very similar. If you take a look, these are the three knowns, and your unknown is C2. In this case, these are your three knowns, and your unknown is D2, okay? This line, again, is the same as the error message over here, all right? And then here's the calculation for the values that you need in the end. Now this else is for the overall else. If they entered 1, if they did not enter 1 or 2, if they entered a 3 or 4, this is just an error message to let the user know that they can't run the program because it is not going to be able to do those calculations because that value, that does not exist, okay? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go and I'm going to do a demonstration for you in MATLAB. So we go to MATLAB online. There is this program that's here that I've created. And I've done number of teeth and torque. So you can see I added an extra line up here. This is my confirmation for the program. This program will perform gear train calculations for you, number of teeth and torque, okay? And it says here, the first line, these are my choices. If you're trying to calculate number of teeth, enter 1, enter 2 for torque. Okay, so if I do the number of teeth, I'm asking for my three knowns. If I get a 0 for either of the torques, it's going to tell me that I can't do the calculation. Otherwise, I can do the calculation and then it'll be displayed. This section here is going to be for if I'm doing the torque calculation. First, I'm asking for my known torque. Then I'm asking for my known number of my number of teeth for both the gears. If I put a 0 in for either of those, I can't do the calculation. And then also, if I do enter numbers in, I can do the calculation. Okay. Otherwise, if I don't enter 1 or 2 for the overall program here, so this else right here applies for the very first if with the 1 or the 2, okay? And it basically says that you didn't enter an appropriate value, please run the program to try again. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to run this program and do a couple of different instances so you can see how it runs. So if I type in gear entry 1, name of my program, there's the confirmation and it's asking me for which one that I want to calculate. So I'm going to do number of teeth. What is my known number of teeth? I'm going to say 7. What is that gear's torque? I'm going to say, let's say 10.2. Okay. What is the torque that I want for my second gear? I'm going to type in a value of 45. And it does the calculation for me. Now, it doesn't round the number of teeth, but we're not building that into the program, okay? So let's do a gear entry for the torque. Okay, and actually, let me go ahead and enter that value in, okay? Let me see the 2 for torque. What is my known torque? We'll say that's going to be a 10.2. Okay, what is that gear's number of teeth? We'll say 7. What is the other gear's number of teeth? We'll say 51. And then it gives me my second torque. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rerun the program now so you can see one of the error messages. Okay. So if I type in gear entry 1, and we are going to enter in, we'll say 1. What is my known number of teeth? 7. What is that gear's torque? It is going to be, we'll say 17. And in this case, I'm going to type in 0 because I don't know. Watch what gets displayed. My error message gets displayed. Okay? So that's basically how the errors work. And this error will be displayed if I enter a 0 in for either of the other ones. Okay? Please let me know if you have any questions.